Chapter 15. The sixth planet was 10 times larger than the last one. It was inhabited by an old gentleman who wrote voluminous books. "Oh, look, here's an explorer," he exclaimed to himself when he saw the little prince coming. The little prince sat down on the table and panted a little. He had already traveled so much and so far. "Where do you come from?" the old gentleman said to him. "What is that big book?" said the little prince. "What are you doing?" "I am a geographer," said the old gentleman. "What is a geographer?" asked the little prince. "A geographer is a scholar who knows the location of all the seas, rivers, towns, mountains, and deserts." "That is very interesting," said the little prince. "Here at last is a man who has a real profession." And he cast a look around him at the planet of the geographer. It was the most magnificent and stately planet that he had ever seen. "Your planet is very beautiful," he said. "Has it any oceans?" "I couldn't tell you," said the geographer. "Ah," the little prince was disappointed. "Has it any mountains?" "I couldn't tell you," said the geographer. "And towns and rivers and deserts?" "I couldn't tell you that either. But you are a geographer." "Exactly," said the geographer, "but I am not an explorer. I haven't a single explorer on my planet. It is not the geographer who goes out to count the towns, the rivers, the mountains, the seas, the oceans, and the deserts. The geographer is much too important to go loafing about. He does not leave his desk, but he receives the explorers in his study. He asks them questions. He notes down what they recall of their travels, and if the recollections of any one of them among them it seem interesting to him, the geographer orders an inquiry into that explorer's moral character. Why is that? Because an explorer who told lies would bring disaster on the books of the geography. So would an explorer who drank too much. Why is that? Asked the little prince. Because intoxicated men see double. Then the geography would note down 2 mountains in a place where there was only one. "I know someone," said the little prince, "who would make a bad explorer." "That is possible." "Then, when the moral character of the explorer is shown to be good, an inquiry is ordered onto its discovery." "No one goes to see it?" "No, that would be much too complicated. But one requires the explorer to furnish proofs. For example, if the discovery in question is that of a large mountain, one requires that large stones be brought back from it." The geographer was suddenly stirred to excitement. "But you have come from a far way. You are an explorer. You shall describe your planet to me." And, having opened his big register, the geographer sharpened his pencil. The recitals of the explorers are put down first in pencil. One waits until the explorer has furnished proofs before putting them down in ink. "Well?" said the geographer expectantly. "Oh, where I live," said the little prince, "it is not very interesting. It is all so small. I have 3 volcanoes. 2 volcanoes are active and the other is extinct. But one never knows." "One never knows," said the geographer. "I also have a flower." "We do not record flowers," said the geographer. "Why is that?" "The flower is the most beautiful thing on my planet." "We do not record them," said the geographer, "because they are ephemeral." "What does that mean, ephemeral?" "Geographies," said the geographer, "are the books which, of all books, are most concerned with matters of consequence. They never become old-fashioned. It is rarely that a mountain changes its position. It is very rarely that an ocean empties itself of its waters. We write of eternal things, but extinct volcanoes may come to life again, said the little prince. What does that mean? Ephemeral. Whether volcanoes are extinct or alive, it comes to the same thing for us, said the geographer. The thing that matters to us is the mountain. It does not change. But what does that mean? Ephemeral, repeated the little prince, who never in his life had let go of a question once he had asked it. It means which in danger of a speedy disappearance. Is my flower in danger of a speedy disappearance? Certainly it is. My flower is ephemeral, the little prince said to himself, and she only has 4 thorns to defend herself against the world, and I have left her on my planet all alone. That was his first moment of regret, but he took courage once again. And which place would you advise me to visit now? He asked. The planet Earth, replied the geographer. It has good reputation. And the little prince went away, thinking of his flower. Chapter 16. So then the 7th planet was the Earth. The Earth is not just an ordinary planet. One can count there 11 kings, not forgetting, to be sure, the Negro kings among them, 7,000 geographers, 900,000 businessmen, 7,500,000 tipplers, 311 million conceited men, that is, need to say, about 2 billion grown-ups. To give you an idea of the size of the Earth, I will tell you that before the invention of electricity, it was a necessity to maintain over the whole the 6 continents a veritable army of 400,062 511 lamplighters for the street lamps. Seen from a slight distance, it would have made a splendid spectacle. The movements of this army would have been regulated like those of a ballet in the opera. First would come the turn of the lamplighters of New Zealand and Australia. Having their lamps set, they would go off to sleep. Next, the lamplighters of China and Siberia would enter for their steps in the dance, and then they too would be waved back into their wings. After that would come the turn of the lamplighters of Russia and the Indies, then those of Africa and Europe, then those of South America and those of South America, then those of North America, and never would they make a mistake in the order of their entry upon the stage. It would be magnificent. Only the man who is in charge of the single lamp at the North Pole and his colleague who is responsible for the single lamp at the South Pole, only those two would live free from toil and care. They would be busy twice a year. Chapter 17. When one wishes to play the wit, he sometimes wanders a little from the truth. I have not been altogether honest in what I've told you about the lamplighters, and I realize that I run the risk of giving a false idea of our planet to those who do not know it. Men occupy a very small place upon the earth. If the 2 billion inhabitants who people its surface were to all stand upright and somewhat crowded together, as they do for some big public assembly, they could easily be put into one public square 20 miles long and 20 miles wide. All humanity would be piled up on a small Pacific islet. The grown-ups, to be sure, will not believe you when you tell them that. They imagine that they fill a great deal of space. They fancy themselves as important as the Baobabs. You should advise them, then, to make their own calculations. They adore figures, and that will please them. But do not waste your time on this extra task. It is unnecessary. You have, I know, confidence in me. When the little prince arrived on Earth, he was very much surprised to see any people. He was beginning to be afraid that he had come to the wrong planet when a coil of gold, the color of the moonlight, flashed across the sand. "Good evening," said the little prince courteously. "Good evening," said the snake. "Which planet is this on, and where have you come down?" asked the little prince. "This is the earth. This is Africa," the snake answered. "Ah, so there are no people on the earth." "This is the desert. There are no people in the desert." "The earth is huge," said the snake, and the little prince sat down on a stone and raised his eyes to the sky. "I wonder whether the stars are set alight in heaven so that one day each one of us may find his own again. Look at my planet. It is right there above us. But how far away is it?" "It is beautiful. What has brought you here?" "I've been having some trouble with a flower," said the little prince. "Ah," said the snake, and they were both silent. "Where are the men?" The little prince at last took the conversation again. "It is a little lonely in the desert." "It is also lonely among men," the snake said. The little prince gazed at him for a long time. "You are a funny animal," he said at last. "You are no thicker than a finger." "But I am more powerful than the finger of a king," said the snake. The little prince smiled. "You are not very powerful. You haven't even any feet. You cannot travel. I can carry you farther than any ship could take you," said the snake. He twined himself around this little prince's ankle like a golden bracelet. "Whomever I touch, I send back to the earth whence he came." The snake spoke again. "But you are innocent and true, and you come from a star." The little prince made no reply. "You move me to pity. You are so weak on this earth made of granite." The snake said, "I can help you. Some day if you grow too homesick for your own planet, I can—" "Oh, I understand you very well," said the little prince. "But why do you always speak in riddles?" "I solve them all," said the snake, and they were both silent.